conform to my trajectory. Any deviation will be taken as an act of aggression.
Looks like we're in the right place.
Destiny wants you to play with it in a very specific sort of way. Between 2006 and 2009, when the console co-op scene was blowing up, the vision of the future seemed to be one where playing games on a console would be a uniquely community-oriented experience. It was a time when achievements were still all the rage, and chatting with your friends over the internet while playing the 1989 Ninja Turtles arcade game was still a novel, almost fascinating experience. Just to put things in perspective, there was a time when Halo 3 having 4-player co-op was news. With Destiny, Bungie's trying to carve out a space where friends can hop online and always be able to play together. The game has been likened to an MMORPG, and in more ways than one, it absolutely is. But where Destiny really captures the spirit of a massively multiplayer online role-playing game is in the way that it fosters doing nothing and accomplishing everything. Friends, regardless of level, will be able to find something to do together, even if that something is just finding the best dancing spot. The spread of activities is wide enough that players who just want an excuse to play together should be able to sync up for a few missions without any trouble at all. And let me tell you that blasting off on your own personal Star Wars-esque speeder bike while hollering to a buddy as you twist and turn through the canyons of Mars is too much fun. It's these sorts of moments, these smaller, friend-oriented experiences, that Bungie's able to replicate with ease through its terrific controls and design. Not to mention that Marty O'Donnell's soundtrack is absolutely incredible. It's a game that features loot prominently, but doesn't dangle it in your face like breadcrumbs to a castle of wasted time. Drops being fewer and further between allows them to decorate a gameplay session instead of being the sole purpose of one. The correct answer, in Destiny's case, for why you should be repeating missions is because playing them with your friends is a blast, not for the sake of theoretical loot. However, in an effort to create longevity, the game is filled with MMO tropes that demand hours of repeating the same activity to earn gear that is ultimately required to unlock the game's high-tier content. In effect, it turns something that could have existed for the fun of play into a grind. On top of that, a linear playthrough of Destiny is a very short experience. There are 4 large, breathtaking landmasses to explore, but each one only has a handful of missions, and nearly all of those have the exact same structure and pacing. This on its own isn't especially problematic because of how tremendously fun the core shooting is, but it does highlight just how repetitive the game's structure is on its face. The trouble with Destiny is that Bungie's bubble vision of how their multiplayer shooter should be played is at odds with how lots of different people actually play games like this one. If you're looking for climactic moments or story, there really isn't anything to see here. If you're in the market for playing competitively online, then be warned there are clear concessions made to balance for the sake of keeping heavy RPG elements. And God forbid you want to play the game without any real-world friends, because the game is launched without a reasonable means to communicate with the players around you. The result is a game that shines brightly when the perfect storm of people all show up in-game at the same place and the same time, but feels wanting when you're forced to play alone. That the game's activities feel lackluster when you're playing solo is especially problematic because the game sends mixed messages about how you're supposed to spend time in its world. On the one hand, it has short, digestible missions for drop-in, drop-out multiplayer sessions. And on the other, a mercantile system that asks players to repeat menial tasks to earn eligibility for the game's best gear. The result is a game that seemingly wants you to play all day, every day, but it wants you to save major or quality content for when your friends hop online. The difference here between Destiny and a traditional MMORPG is that Destiny just doesn't have good quality off-time activities. The best MMOs have dozens of ways to improve your character while you aren't playing the game's core content. And while I wouldn't say that farming crafting materials in Warcraft is any more stimulating than Destiny's rote patrol missions, they do offer one distinct difference. Side content in an MMORPG should reinforce the core game, not replace the spoils of it. But while I could sit here all day nitpicking the game's obvious flaws, I have had nothing but fun playing Destiny. In the end, to my mind, Destiny is not an MMO, despite its attempts to be one. It's a lengthy multiplayer console game. It suffers from a pretty severe messaging problem, but with close to 20 hours clocked and only a fraction of that time dedicated to competitive multiplayer, I'm excited to keep playing it. If you can find the friends to play with and can resist the psychological temptations to marathon it, there's a game here I feel like I've been wanting to play for a long time.